All right, looks. Oops, what happened? Oh, already blowing it. Hey, I'm your host Shane with Radical Rocks. Today we are going to talk about rocks as weapons. We'll talk about a whole list of gemstones and some other topics. So hopefully you'll join in. This is a live stream, so yeah, if you want to comment, if you happen to be online, I will try to catch that and try to be in tune with any comments that you have. Now, you can get a hold of me if you want. We've got our videos here on YouTube. Appreciate you subscribing and liking. That helps us out, of course, as you know, and hear all the time. You want to get connected with our groups, go to MeWe.com. I've got got 3 websites over there, 3 groups. One's a Homestead Harbinger, where I do my homesteading stuff. There's Radical Rocks. There's a lapidary group there, Radical Rocks Lapidary Group. And there's Selling Rocks, too, Radical Rocks Selling Rocks. So if you want to buy and sell rocks and you're a reputable person, you can post on that site. And then Radical Rocks USA at Rumble. You can come check us out there. Twitter, I don't go on there hardly at all, but Radical Rocks USA. And then if you've got ideas for the show or anything like that, you can try to email me at radicalrocksusa@gmail.com. I get hundreds of emails a day there, so I can't promise you that I'll see it, but I will try to filter through there and see if I can find it. So, all right, well, let's get right into it. Let's see what we got to talk about today. We got some good stuff. And let's see, anybody there yet? 20,000 people? That seems like a lot. No, just kidding. My podcast does really good. We've got way over 60,000 downloads, and we're in like over 80 countries. We get a lot of activities, and also the YouTube, a lot of comments and stuff from everybody. Thank you. Mostly on some of the older videos. They're on different topics and field trips and stuff like that. All right. So, yeah, ancient artifacts, rocks as weapons. Our friends at Rock and Gem tell us about the history of rocks. Rocks have been used to kill animals and your neighbors for millions of years. And they made what they needed from what they had, wood and rocks. And they used rocks to start fires, used flint, jasper, agate for arrowheads. So these things were a huge benefit and helped early man survive in the wild. So let me give a plug for Rock and Gem. They don't sponsor the show, but if you go to Rock and Gem, and that's rock, the letter N, gem.com, you can get the same information. It's free. I recommend you subscribe to their magazine. If you're a real rock hound and lapidarius, then that's what you will do. All right. So rocks have been used as these weapons. It started in the Stone Age. You know, they say there was an ice age. Climate was definitely cooler. We can even look back at history of Native Americans just 150 years ago, moving out of the Panamint Mountains in Nevada in the U.S. because of the drying areas and moving toward the Sierras and going for the food and the mushrooms and the water. So, yeah, so the Stone Age is when man was using just stones. It transitioned into the Bronze Age and then eventually into the Iron Age. So all of these times are known by researchers as different distinct periods. You could think of the Neolithic era and those type of eras. So the Stone Age was, when Fred Flintstone was paddling around on his car and riding dinosaurs and stuff way back then, right? And they would use these stones back many, many moons ago to make these weapons. We have cave drawings that depict stone weapons. We have findings all over the world that date these. before many, many years BCE, the Neolithic era. This era is said to go back some 8,000 years. Could go back at least 2,500 years or more before BCE, they say. This is a period when man used stone, bone, antler, wood weapons, and started experimenting with metals. Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, there's a lot of older books from Egypt and the Bible that talked about people making gold, making iron even, many years before the Romans got their, claim to fame. Also, the Vikings with iron, they had iron. So, yeah, that's maybe as a global, those numbers are somewhere in the neighborhood. But yeah, using stone for axes, blades, chisels. I found one that was used for scraping hide. It was about the size of the palm of your hand and kind of rounded like that, where they would scrape the fat off the back of the hides so that they could be preserved for making clothing or shelter. And then, of course, points. We have these were used up until a couple hundred years ago. Maybe even less, like maybe even, I don't know, let's see, to the early 1900s, the Native Americans were still using bows and arrows and using obsidian, using flint. Chert is another one. Chert is kind of like agate, or like a jasper rather. There's a lot of places where you can go and see where they had made a lot of weapons out of stones. I have one video about rose quartz where we found all sorts of arrowheads, partial arrowheads made out of white quartz or clear, almost a clear quartz, kind of a milky bull quartz. But whatever they could use to form arrows out of, the better it was, the better arrow they got. So some of the Native Americans in our country here in the United States would trade the better materials like flint and obsidian. It would be traded far and wide. In fact, trading routes across the western United States went from Canada all the way into the middle of South America, the Pacific Trail, it was called. And they find bits and pieces or have along these trails that indicate things were transported. In fact, the Aztecs that used jade, they didn't know where the jade came from, but eventually that was discovered. I think in the 80s or 90s, they found out where that was coming from and was there in their country. I think a lot of that jade is mined now out of, I want to say Guatemala, but I'm not sure now. I can't remember the country, but it's in South America. And then they had a lot of turquoise, and they were like, where did the turquoise come from? Well, it came from the southwest of the United States. And they would run this up through, typically they would travel through the mountains because they had water, they had food, they had a path, that Pacific Trail, that runners would relay these goods and services back and forth to each other. And that's how they did it. That's how they did their trade, the Native Americans back then. So this article from the Rock and Gem gives you all these different years of when tools and stuff, and they estimate that it came about some 3,000 years ago. They give credit to the Bronze Age, which again, I said the Bible pretty much discounts that and says that started almost 6,000 years ago. So yeah, do your own research and go with what you think is now points. These projectile points, they use a technique called knapping by chipping around the edges so that a sharp edge is accomplished around the stone. And this would make a wonderful arrow, spear, any type of cutting object. They could make longer ones for like a dagger. So, the bigger it was, obviously, the harder it was to make. If you've ever been to one of these areas where Native Americans would sit there and do the knapping, where they would try to create a pointed tip for an arrow or whatnot, you'll find all kinds of them they left behind because they would mess them up. It would chip out the wrong way or whatever. So a lot of work. When you've got one that's really perfect, a lot of work went into that. And, that perfect spear tip or arrowhead that was found, was shot during a time of them protecting themselves or for hunting. And it could have got lost in the brush where they couldn't find it, or it could have even winged an animal and got carried off quite a distance. So they would retrieve that arrowhead if they could. So finding these good arrowheads, perfect arrowheads, or, as perfect as can be, shouldn't be all that common. They should be considered pretty rare. Sling stones is another interesting item. You think of the Bible story of David and Goliath. Excuse me while I take a swig of coffee. David, they portray him as a weak little boy, but, David was a real badass. He was a tough dude. He wrestled with a bear and a lion, and he killed him with his bare hands. He was not one to be trifled with. But when he saw this giant Philistine that stood over 9 feet tall, a huge, massive, imposing individual, he grabbed these smooth stones, put them in between a sling, a leather with some strings, a patch, swirled it around, creating this tremendous velocity before he let go of one side of it to release those smooth stones, those projectiles, as they sunk into that giant's head, immobilizing him in an instant and dropping him to the ground in such bad condition that David ran up there and was able to annihilate his victim. So yeah, these stones, these hurling stones or sling stones, were also used. It would be hard to identify exactly which ones would be, but they theorize that when they see that it looks pretty deliberate, the chippings, some of them would look like a hammer with 2 sides on each side. Some of them would be round. Some of them would be square. Some of them would be rounded with a indentation out each side so that they could wrap it around there and it would stay put in maybe a braided rope or string they would make, or maybe some strips of leather, so they could hurl this at their enemy or at prey they were hunting to survive. So these are all the things that they would use. You could also have a piece of flint, and they would strike that against another stone. Very difficult, extremely difficult to do. If you have flint and you have some hardened metal, it's hard to get a spark out of that. So, in modern times, that's what they would use, is some, like a file, hardened steel, like a file, like a metal file for filing industrial, commercial type stuff. They could use something like that. Now, I got some bad news. Forest Service closes the rock hounding site in Northeast Washington so they can fix what they call years of damage. This is found at the Spokesman.com website. The Spokesman Review is a newspaper in Spokane, Washington, and they have dated this November 1st. And they report here that the federal officials have closed this popular rock hounding because people have undermined trees, causing them to fall. They have some pictures of a couple trees here. And what they were collecting was these beautiful quartz crystals by Solo Creek site an area directly west of Priest Lake, and they have no anticipation when it'll be open. Apparently, you can collect off the surface there, but you're not allowed to dig holes. So this is why I tell people when you're collecting, don't leave trash. Bring more trash home with you than you left. Don't leave big gaping holes, especially under the bottom of a tree. I mean, they're going to know that it was the rockhounds, and it just puts a bad name on all of us, and then they close the area. All right. 50 types of gems. This is my 2023 list of rocks and gems because I don't know that I'll have a chance to get back on here during the holidays and everything. So I wanted to give you some of this. All right. So let's get into it. I just kind of messed up my page here. Hopefully I can straighten it up a little bit. All righty, here we go. We could start, and well, depending on the feed and how my connection is and when my family, I'll elaborate on this. Agate is number one for a rockhound. Agate is the bomb. There's so many varieties. We've done a lot of podcasts on different types of agates. I've done some videos on some super special agates that I have. Chalcedony is a variety which has banding, inclusions, translucent areas, colors, patterns, vivid. Some of the metals and minerals that are in there that give it interesting colors can be trace amounts of iron oxide, magnesium, titanium, and other elements give it its color and patterns. So yeah, it's getting more popular in jewelry. Used to be, people wouldn't touch it, but now some of the finer agates are becoming more and more rare. Next on our list is going to be a beautiful stone, alexandrite. Now this is considered I would say it's precious. It's rare. Often you'll get color changes in it. You can get, it's a chrysoberyl. So kind of related to emerald or beryl. Sorry. Hello. Okay. Dogs are in the back. I'm in the middle of a live podcast right now. No worries. Bye. Okay. So yeah, it can change colors. Greens, blues, browns are most common. Red, another color. If you get it to do 2 color changes, that's really impressive. Some will do 3, basically sunlight, incandescent light, fluorescent light, different types of light will make it change its color. It's very rare. It's an alternative for the June birthstone. So it's some of the best stuff is found in Brazil, also Russia, the Ural Mountains, but it is getting rarer and rarer all the time. There's not really any coming out of Russia now. Mostly it's, there might be some coming out of India as well, maybe China. Amazonite. This is our next stone. This is the stone of the traveler. Not that I'm into metaphysics or anything like that, but I used to carry some in my wallet. Thought it was a pretty cool stone. Can come in greens to blues. The blues are more rare. It is a family of feldspar. It's been used in jewelry for thousands of years. Been found in Egypt, Mesopotamia. It's about 6 on the hardness scale. So not as durable as agate or some of the others, but ammonite occurs in a lot of different countries, primarily Australia, China, Mongolia, South Africa, Libya, Sweden, and of course the good old United States. And a lot of people think it is a copper mineral, but it is not. All right. Amber. Amber, this is an organic tree sap that is very, very old, fossilized tree resin. It can be a gem quality. You can't get it too hot or it will melt or burn. And most of the amber that you see comes from the Baltic, can come from Lithuania, Russia, Sweden, Germany, Poland, Denmark. Other areas is a little bit more rare. Can be golden to dark, can be yellowish. Some of it can be even black. Pretty cool. Amethyst. Very popular. This purple gemstone is a gemstone of antiquity royalty. Very widely found, very common. It does fade in the sunlight, so you want to keep it out of direct sunlight. Can be used as February's birthstone. Very hard. Since it's a quartz, it's going to be about 8 on the hardness scale. It's found all over the world. A lot of it in the United States. I mean, I think you find it pretty much all over the world. Now, here's one you may not know is a ammonite. Ammonite is a gem quality fossil from ammonites. Ammonites were like a kind of a octopus in a shell with the tentacles. They would use jet propulsion to travel through the water. Many of these were big, giant, massive creatures in the ancient seas. They got buried, and some of the shells became very beautiful and look opalized. This opalized amethyst or ammonite, which is these fossils, is found in beautiful Canada. Many beautiful specimens are found there. Next, azurite, one of my favorites. Azurite can be found as a calcium carbonic kind of calcite where it's a softer. If you're very fortunate, you will find it where it is siliconized. You can find it in other minerals, copper minerals. It is a copper mineral. You will find it a lot with malachite. It can be blended or it can be very beautiful. And it's only about 4 on the hardness scale if you're lucky. So if you find it blended with something else that's a little harder, that's what you want for your gemstone typically. So you will find beautiful azurite. So aquamarine. This is a beautiful blue, translucent, colored gemstone, crystal gemstone, and a March birthstone with 5 to 8. It is kind of in the family of beryl, emeralds such as that, and it has its color that gives it this beautiful aquamarine color. It can be found in the United States in some areas, but the most highest quality comes from Mozambique, Madagascar, Nigeria, and Russia, and a lot of really good stuff comes out of Brazil. So, yeah, it looks like the ocean. So if you're a surfer or you love islands or the sea, this is a really great stone to wear and have. In fact, I gave my wife a beautiful aquamarine necklace when we were married, and I set that in it. It was faceted. I think it was about, I don't know, it was several carats, pretty big. So it's quite beautiful. Okay, next. Let's see what we got here. Chrysoberyl. Chrysoberyl is ancient stone of antiquity worn by kings and queens on the high priest's breastplate in Bible times in ancient Israel. It is pretty hard, about 8.5 on the hardness scale. It is most prized when it is a greenish color, but it can be a yellow brown to greenish gray, greenish brown or gray, and sometimes even has a little bit of color change in different lighting. Chrysoberyl mines are found on most continents, such as aquamarine, Brazil, Australia, Madagascar, Russia, India, China, Sri Lanka, Zimbabwe, and Myanmar are some wonderful areas. Okay. Next is bloodstone on our list. Bloodstone. This is green and red, sometimes have some browns in it. It's a chalcedony typically. It can be very dark green with little red splatter spots through it. It's going to be about 6.5 and 7. It makes great cations if it doesn't have inclusions and fractures. Great for Christmas. March gemstone, very beautiful. Became kind of spiritual in Mesopotamia some 5,000 years ago. Citrine, next on our list. This is an orangish, goldish to yellow. A lot of it's yellow. Yellow orange is actually more beautiful. Sometimes gets confused with topaz, but yeah, it's pretty. If it's heat treated, it will change it to an amethyst color. So yeah, but it'll change back. So citrine originates from Spain, Madagascar, Bolivia, Mexico, Uruguay, and some heat treated amethyst also mimics it. So maybe I got it backwards. Maybe it's amethyst that turns to citrine if it's heated. Carnelia. Carnelia is another ancient stone. It's kind of a good luck stone. Chalcedony is what it is. If you're ever out in the desert and there's some of these carnelias are out there, they can be a yellow to a dark red. Of course, the dark red is more desirable. If you walk, I think with the sun to your back, they kind of glow when the light hits them in the evening when the sun is low. So that's pretty cool. Another time is when it's still wet. That's a great time to look for chalcedony on the desert floor. It's great for cutting. Again, it was associated with royalty, and people used it to ward off the evil eye. And let's see. What else here? I touch it, and then it just shoots onto the next page. Okay, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but it is Hayne. I'm going to say it's Hewen, but that might not be the right pronunciation. It looks kind of a pretty generic stone. Doesn't look like anything special. Some gem quality stuff comes out of Germany. It's a vivid blue and translucent when it is faceted, and it's part of the sodalite mineral group. Several colors varying from green, gray, yellow, red, pink, but now these gem quality blue crystals are quite desirable. A few high quality yellow and green ones have been discovered in Tanzania, Afghanistan, and Myanmar. It has a cleavage that's kind of tough that makes it want to break. And so when it's faceted, you got to be really careful because you will split that. Oh, by the way, emerald's kind of like that too. All right, Heliodor or Liodor. It's Heliodor. This is a beautiful warm stone, kind of a yellowish orange. It's a beautiful gem of beryl quality that got its name because of the golden beryl from Nambia. But any gem quality is worth it. It is of the beryl family, and it can run colorless to black. Makes great jewelry, and the best pieces are in museums. So it looks like my family's back. I will check see if anybody had any messages here. And no, even though we've got 2,000 subscribers, nobody's up this time of night. So I am going to let you go so I can deal with my family obligations. And if I have time next week, maybe we'll continue this talk on the 2023 gemstones that we can go over and talk about. So with that, until next time, remember, rockhounds don't die, they petrify.